Hey everybody, Teresa here from Inspiration Cards, and I'm back with another Stamp Jammies online card class. This month we're going to be featuring the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set. I love this stamp set. It's a great one for the fall season. It's got lots of great images and some great phrases for this time of year, and so I'm excited to get started and share this week's card. So here's this week's card. So we're using, of course, the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set. I'm also using on this card the coordinating detailed pumpkin dies and the Stitched So Sweetly dies. This is actually one of my new favorite sets of dies. And we're also using some of the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper that you would have got in your full class kit. So for the supplies that you'll need for this card, of course, you'll need the Pale Papaya card base. You'll also have a piece of the Designer Series paper, and then you'll have 3 pieces of basic white cardstock. One will just be a straight rectangle. This one will be your stitched, and then of course you'll have a die cut of the pumpkins. Of course you'll have to stamp yours yourself, but we're going to do some coloring today, so I thought I would stamp this in advance. So, as always, I like to get started by folding my card base in half. Here we go. That nice, crisp, clean fold with my bone folder. Now I can set that aside. And then I'm going to grab the largest piece of basic white, and we're just going to stamp a little something on the inside of the card. So I used some early espresso to match with the Designer Series paper on the outside and just stamped this leaf image. So that's what I'm going to grab right now. So it's the larger of the leaf collections in this stamp set. There is one that's a little bit smaller, but it does go the other direction. So I want this one to go in the bottom right. If you want to switch it up and go into the bottom left, then you can use the smaller leaf cluster. So I'm just going to use my early espresso, get that on there. I always like to have a little bit of both colors from the outside of the card shown on the inside. So that's why I went with that instead of Pale Papaya. So let's just set that off to the side, and you're going to grab your stitched piece of basic white. So this is for our phrase. So this one I'm going to use the Gather Together. The So Thankful for You would actually also fit. So you're more than welcome to switch it up for a phrase from the stamp set, or if you have one in your craft stash that you like a little bit better, feel free to swap that out. There we go. And again, I'm going to use the early espresso for the phrase. Just gently tap the ink onto your stamp, and I'm going to try and center that as best I can. There we go. All right, so let's set that aside to dry. And you'll want to grab your die cut pumpkins. So once you've got them stamped, you can either use the Stampin' Blends, or in this case, I'm actually just going to use a blender pen along with Pale Papaya, early espresso, and I'm going to throw in a little bit of Old Olive as well. So to use your blender pen, what you first are going to want to do is just squish your ink pad together. So you get some of that ink into the lid of your ink pad, and then just pick up some of that ink. I always like to do just a little dab on a piece of paper first. So I can just kind of spread that around. There's a little left over on here. So definitely want to make sure that you clean your blender pens. There we go. Let's see. So to clean your blender pens in between colors, basically what you want to do is just scribble on a scrap piece of paper until there isn't any more color. You can also pick up ink from the ink pad itself if you like. Get you a little bit of a deeper, darker color. So I want these to be a little darker than what I'm getting. I'm gonna just dab onto just a scrap piece of paper first, just so I don't get a big blob of pale papaya on my pumpkin. There we go. Let's see if we can, there we go. Get this guy looking a little more orangey. There we go. Almost there. So with the blender pen on this one, I'm actually just kind of doing straight, almost like brush strokes. There we go. All right, so there are our pale papaya pumpkins. And so like I said, to clean, just want to get a scrap piece of paper and just give it a scribble until you don't see any more color coming off. Let me tell you, that's a well used scrap of paper. All right, and I actually want the old olive leaves to be a little bit lighter. So this time I'm going to use the color from the lid. There we go. And one more time. And again, so just doing almost like brush strokes with this, with the blender pen. You kind of start the cleaning process when you're finishing up with your last image. There we go. And for the stems, we're going to do just that little touch of early espresso. Give this a quick little clean here. And I am going lightest to darkest on purpose. So just in case there is any little bit of residue or anything left over on the blender pen. All right, so there we go. So I'm going to pull my pieces all together. Oops, after I color this last little stem. There we go. All right, so you're just going to want to grab your go-to adhesive. So whether that's tape runner for you, glue dots, or multi-purpose liquid glue. I tend to be a tape runner girl. There we go. Just put that right in the center on the inside of your card. So still lots of room to write a note to whoever you decide to give this card to. And so here's the other side of this piece of Designer Series paper. If you haven't checked out the Beauty of the Earth Designer Series paper, I definitely encourage you to do that. I love it. There's lots of different colors, and there's actually a lot of variety in the different designs. So you get your leafy designs like that side. You've also got the wood grain, but there's some really fun other designs as well. All right, so these guys here are going to get popped up with some dimensionals. Just going to grab my minis here, and so just gonna scatter a few on the back. Go, I'm gonna do one more for good measure. Here we go. Pull the paper off the back. And this is gonna go a little bit more towards the top left corner. You want to leave enough space for your pumpkins. Now these, as you can see, you're going to want a little bit of glue or tape runner just for that little corner there. And that'll help you gauge where the rest of your dimensionals need to go once you get that piece done. Okay, and again, just peel the paper off the back. Here we go, and let's just overlap that corner there. There, and I always like to add a little bit of bling to my cards, so I'm going to add a few basic jewels to the bottom. So these are the teeniest, tiniest ones in the pack. You can use whatever size you choose. I'm just going to put 3. Let me shuffle that a little bit. There we go. Down in this bottom left corner. So I'm just using the spatula tip from my Take Your Pick tool. Scoop these guys up. Makes it a lot easier to get it onto my cardstock instead of onto my fingers. So there we go. As always, I have one alternative that to share using the same stamp set. So this one here, again, is using the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set. So there's that cluster, pumpkin cluster image and our Gather Together. And of course, we've got a few of our die cuts. So this is one of the detailed pumpkins from the Detailed Pumpkins dies. And there's also some leaves that you can punch out, that you can cut out as well with the die kits. And then on the inside, we've got a little bit of Designer Series paper. This is actually the Cork Specialty DSP, which really actually feels like cork. It's really cool. So there you have it. I hope you liked this week's card. I will be back again next week with our second card for this month's Stampin' Jammies online card class. If you missed out on getting the full card kit, which would include the Pretty Pumpkins stamp set, an ink pad, and some coordinating Designer Series paper, don't worry, you can still get the class supplies. So for $20, and that includes shipping anywhere in Canada, you'll get all the supplies you need to make all 4 of this month's cards. Or if you want to try and get on board for next month's Stampin' Jammies class, we're going to be featuring the Frosted Gingerbread stamp set. This one is so cute. I'm just loving creating with this one. So you have until October 12th to sign up for the full class kit. So that includes the stamp set, an ink pad, some of the gingerbread and peppermint Designer Series paper, along with all the supplies for the 4 cards for next month. In the meantime, you can check out my Facebook page at Inspiration Cards or some of my other projects on my blog at inspirationcards.com. And if you have any questions about Stampin' Up! Or paper crafting and scrapbooking in general, you just shoot me an email at inspirationwiththeresa@gmail.com. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon.